I think I'm going to do some reading for you. This is Connected by Angels. And I think it's very important right now that some of it's read, and I hope some of you hear it. I don't have a quite big following because, the world really hasn't loved me for who I am. In one sense, you're not supposed to love the LGBT, you're supposed to hate them. And or they're gross, that's abomination, so stay away from them because they can't decide to grow their hair out, wear makeup and long nails like the rest of the women do, and call themselves a woman and pink, and that's for women. We're in a very big crisis, if you can't see. And this isn't me mocking, this is me telling the truth, and I think you know it. This book is very revelatory. First of all, I'm going to say it's dedicated to my grandmother. Her birthday was March 28th. March 28th is a very specific timeline in my family. And as you can see, those red heifers, March 28th is coming up, and March 29th is Good Friday. Isn't it interesting? Good Friday is supposed to be dedicated to Jesus, the crucifixion, yet they're going to make red ashes out of the red heifers. Where'd those come from? Well, I live in Texas. They came about 30 minutes from where I'm standing. I'm wearing the Shiloh shirt because I'm Shyla. March 28th was my grandmother. She was born March 28, 1933. She passed away on my 25th birthday. I was 24 when 9/11 happened. She passed away 333 days after 9/11. That was my 25th birthday. For 8 years, I was pretty sad and miserable and depressed. Because every year for my birthday, I remember my grandmother who loved me the most. Being in the LGBT, it was very hard to have any kind of love. Not understanding as a kid who I am. Understanding now who I am in Jesus does matter. Whether anybody out there can see it or not. We're in a very big crisis from the straight community, ready to push a button on every nation. It's not women doing it, but this woman has to speak. This woman probably looks like this in the spirit. In this book right here, this is my life story. And now there's names like Sunny, because that's who I called myself in the book. If I'm Shyla. Sunny Dove Letter made her way on August 10, 1977, which is true. I came in 1977. To the parents of Ali and Patty Letter of Oklahoma, waiting upon delivery. Proud grandparents of Oklahoma, William and Pat Bell. I'm going to share this because my brother was born March 26th. Now, I posted some about my sister born March 23rd. Yesterday was her birthday. She just turned 38. My brother's about to turn 44. You never can tell, if we have internet tomorrow or not. So, I thought I would post this. Am I scared? No, I'm not, because God's already started preparing me for all of this. And whether we have internet or not, I thought I would just post it, make it even, because there's 3 Connected by Angels on my Instagram. So this will be, there's 2. This will be the 3rd. And this is going to be spoken for my brother. And this is chapter 1. But I do give a prelude that's called The Taster. And I give you an introduction about how it all starts. That's all in this book. So, chapter 1. We had moved to Texas in the early 80s and lived in an apartment close to the train station. At nighttime, when I was about to fall asleep, I would lie and listen to blowing horns and from the train chugging along the nearby distance. Through my bedroom window I would look out into the dark, starry sky and watch a set of 3 blinking lights hanging from the atmosphere. I guess that's how airplanes could indicate how far they were from the landing strip. In the daytime, my mom and dad would take my brother and me out to the park. My brother Blaine was an infant when he sat in the stroller next to my mom on the park bench. Blaine was born a month ago. Now, in the book, that's how I write it. But he was actually born March 26, 1980. March 26 is a very specific number, I hear. There's quite a few birthdays on that day. And probably the first baby I actually had any interaction with as well. One particular time while feeding him in need of a diaper change, I held his bottle while my mom took his diaper off. Forgetting to grab the baby wipes, she reached behind her to grab them out of the bag, and before she could turn back around, this is a true story, he shot a fountain of water, urine all over her, as I'm sitting there calmly holding the bottle and feeding him. Mom learned to have all the necessities at hand when it was diaper changing time. And I learned too much milk had to go somewhere. He's a little peapot. I was just a teacup at 3 years old with short locks of medium brown hair reaching from my shoulders. My head appeared larger than the rest of my body. I was stimulated by celebration. I was energetic, and when it came to playtime, however, I didn't spill my thoughts out openly. I was always happy and felt providential. In the evenings, my mom and dad would take out to the playground at the apartment. Would take us out to the playground at our apartment. There were many kids hogging the seesaw, and so my dad would push me in the swing instead. I remember asking him, "Can you swing me higher, Daddy?" I wanted to reach for the sky, jump out of the swing and fly around like a bird, maybe a hummingbird, because I always felt like humming melodies from cartoons I watched. Now this is me giving interpretation when I was young, but this is also chapter 1. What I remember, my brother was 2.5 years younger. And how this ends on chapter 1. Some of the times, the boys would call me back to their shared room to help them select a tire for the day. I handpicked each twin a different colored polo shirt to put on, then helped them style their hair off to the side like a gelled tidal wave. With 10 minutes to spare, we ran out the door, hopping on our bikes and hard pedaling off to school. Summer mornings in Texas were vibrant and warm. There were full-size oak trees and acorn trees everywhere that gave squirrels a place to habitat. The lush green front yards were perfect under the turf for rabbits we saw hopping around. Traffic was a constant flow by parents taking their kids to school or citizens driving to work. I took account of all the road signs as landmarks in the distance for school. Arriving at school, we tied our bikes up to the bike racks just as 5-minute warning bell was ringing. We knew we needed to be in our seats ready for class to begin. On this particular day, we got there just in the nick of time. The principal halted us in the morning and gave us detentions at recess for running the halls. For the most part of school, I was a good kid. I did once start a fight from being mischievous, and boy did I get a paddling for it. What better place than school to learn how to fight? Chapter 2, The Farm. During the end of class one afternoon, I sat in my seat anxiously. My grandparents had a farm, so I spent a lot of my summers at the farm. And I do know about red heifers. What I was saying earlier is it's funny. In this book, I describe a rare red heifer being born. But I call it, I think it's, where's that? Not just red, it was also white and red, but I call it a rare. It's interesting because at this time that I wrote this, I didn't know anything about red heifers and sacrifice and all of this. So this is a kind of a prophecy as well. It is here somewhere. Here it is. We kept walking. You see, I was ready to see the newborn baby calf. My dad, Blaine, and I followed off my grandpa. This is page 42. On foot past the middle house on the way to the dairy barn. That house was my great-grandma's house on my grandpa's side. She was outside intensely planting flowers in her garden, so we all just walked past saying hello. She smiled and waved hello back. It's funny, her name was Nina. It's so funny. I would always say, is that like Nina? That was her name. But we kept walking to the milk house where we met my uncle there. Turning on the pulsators, we could bring in a herd of black and white heifers to milk. Queenie was our roundup processor. We went to see the newest addition to the farm first, before we found Queenie to help us gather up the girls. The rare, now this is where it gets interesting, the rare red and white Holstein was born a week ago. She stood there mooing at us when we came into the barn where she was kept. My grandpa mixed up some powdered formula to feed her with a bottle nearly as big as my arm. Within 5 minutes of giving this calf nourishment, my grandpa took the bottle to the sprayers, washed it out, and turned it upside down. Holsteins are black and white, so it's funny, I put rare red and white. This book is pretty cool. It talks about my grandmother's birthday as well, March 28th. She wrote a song. This is very interesting. She wrote her own songs and played them in church on Sundays. She put her talent to test in 1972 when she entered into a contest for songwriters. She wrote a song titled At the End of Day for the Cathedral Recording Company in Boston for a musical production, and she won. She signed the lyrics over to the recording company for them to use as they willed. Her gifted ability for writing songs had been selected, giving her a new direction in life. She chose to remain close to her family, though, and she donated her songs from her heart. Looking back on her life now, she was blessed in many other ways than just money or fame. Chapter 3 talks about my sister. I've only taken one major road trip with my family besides a short drive to Grandma Pat's house. 2 summers back, we went to Florida and visited our cousins for a couple weeks. I remember driving along the expanse of Highway 95, the exodus of Daytona Beach. It was my most perfect first experience of building sandcastles and snorkeling in the Atlantic Ocean. Running along the deep blue ocean, skipping tides with my cousin, feeling happy and free like a bumblebee, was the place to be. seagulls flying above us, chirping on the fun racing back to our sandcastles built in the sun, cooling down from refreshing swims, observing tons of multicolored creatures in the water with tiny big fins. Sharks! Shark! Exclaims my brother, who was only joking to get some laughter. Yes, this is much like paradise. Will it last forever? A couple days later, my parents took us out of this world. A couple days later, my parents took us out of this world and into another. In my singing voice, we landed at Mickeymouse. I felt like magic. I felt the magic of Disney when I was 5 years old. My dad carried, it's so interesting. My parents took us out of this world and into another. Sometimes when I'm writing, I don't even remember. I'm not a great reader, so now that I'm reading it, it feels like the first time, yet I wrote it. Here, I've recently cut my hair, and if you were to really look in this area, I was bit by a chow dog. And, well, let's see. Jackson didn't go to school. He went to a private Christian academy. His lessons were given at home by his mother, Mary. I attended some of their Sunday schools occasionally when my dad wasn't paying attention. My dad was Muslim, and even though he never taught me his religion, he didn't want me becoming Christian. I'm so thankful. Thanks, Sean. Thank you. I'm so thankful God gave us all free will. On my bike ride home from school, I remembered Mary spoke words of God into me and said, if you're ever scared, call out loud to Jesus and he will be there. Continuing to pedal home, I remembered the day I owed my life to Jesus. In Jackson's backyard, we were making a white feathered rooster chase us. We thought it was fun to outrun this head-picking creature around in the sun. Jackson had a big furry chow running wildly with us. By accident, we tripped and fell over Jackson's dog, and he started viciously biting my head. Blood was all over my hands, and I thought I was dead. I held my hand over my head defensively, and suddenly the voice of Jackson's mother, Mary, said, call out to Jesus. Frantically scared, I screamed, Jesus, help! I felt total calmness come over me as I called Jesus' name out, and it was like a slow motion film. The air went silent and clips of the dog being attacked flashed in front of me as I was holding my blood-dripping head. I stood on my feet and I hovered above the big furry chow. He cowardly began backing up like there was an elephant made of steel attacking him. I ran inside Jackson's house for help. Mary was in the kitchen washing dishes. She hysterically asked me, what in the God's name happened? The bleeding would not stop, and she advised me for stitches. She came with my parents to the hospital. On the way there, I told her that I cried out to Jesus. She smiled and said, hallelujah. She continued to hold the gnarly rip in my head. In the King James Bible, it says that Jesus came back after being resurrected, and he stood in front of Thomas and said, blessed are they who have not seen yet and believed. I will never forget that day. I have a scar to prove it. Anyways, I could read a lot more, but I'm going to end it here because I'm going to eat my warm pancakes and eggs that my brother made, as I'm speaking about March 26th coming up soon for his birthday. We are connected by angels. Oh, this is for Beyonce again. She says this ain't Texas. But in Texas, I hope to play at 10 clubs and a lot of music. Is that what it says? In Texas, the only cards Sunny Doubletter hopes to flop on the Red River are a heart of music and 10 club. Sunny's passion to perform for others has been a trait passed down from her grandmother. Ultra glam mother Pat Bell wrote for 2 separate newspapers in Oklahoma, sang gospel songs, and played piano at the Assembly of God. Her passion to share joy with others inspires Sunny to live out her rock star dreams until she meets Penny. With the help of a Lady Gaga impersonator, Sunny realizes the relationship with Penny is over. As Sunny is sinking into a river of hell, she fights for her freedom. On a day that Sunny would always remember, she escapes the ball and chain and never looks back. At the end of the day, she realizes the stars in the sky share connected passion. It's no coincidence Sunny was born this way on this day. Following the footsteps of her grandmother, Coppershy has always been a visionary kind of person. Becoming an inspired mystery and suspense author has been always at the top of her bucket list online now. That's pretty much all I was able to write. I don't know if we're going to have lights tomorrow, next day, or whatnot to continue, but I got a lot of paper and pens. If I don't have gasoline, I won't be driving. I guess that's when I'll learn how to play the bass. And sing on a harmonica, on a harp. Yeah. Coppershy grew up in Texas and later achieved a successful real estate business. When I mean successful, that was only like 1 week. And to, one day is like 1,000 years to God. I had a 1 week success. That's what I mean. And by the 5th client in that day, 1 week. By the 5th client in 1 day, 1 day. In 1 day, I developed what I thought was a heart attack. And I went to the hospital and they said it was a panic attack. And they put me on some prescriptions. I thought, the doctors know best, right? I couldn't focus for a while. And suddenly I was hugging everybody and doing weird things on a Xanax every 4 hours. And that's not how you take it, but that's how it was written, take it. And I didn't know. But I realized you cannot trust even the doctors. So, Coppershy's true success in living life is living compassionate for others, which is visible through her character. The end.